So does it seem that IGN as of late has been a little bit hypercritical about pop culture with their critiques about streaming shows, comic books, anime for even that matter? Am I the only one? So stay tuned, I'm going to share some thoughts and comments. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's me, OC Steve. Just wanted to share some thoughts, comments, and opinions about pop culture, and more importantly, those people that review what I enjoy ever so much. This time it's IGN. It just seems really weird that they love some things, hate others, and right now they're really aiming their hatred at Robert Kirkman's Invincible, something that I'm, and my wife for that matter, are really enjoying on Amazon Instant Streaming. They recently just put out episode 6, and this was one of the other real articles where they slam it, so I just thought I'd go through it. They give it a 6. It's okay to them. After some major improvements in recent weeks, Invincible's 6th episode falls back on old habits, relying on stilted dialogue scenes and subpar voice work to carry its story. Wow, that's a little harsh, especially since it has a wide variety of voice actors, many of them either Oscar winners or nominated. You know, you had in the last episode alone, you had 3 Oscar nominees, 2 of them winners. Steven Yeun, the main actor who voices Mark and Invincible, is up for an Oscar this year alone. So I think that's pretty impressive. So that's a little jaded. It allows the show to breathe, but does little to explore its characters any further. This is obviously written by somebody who's never really read the Invincible comic books or really gets an idea of how Robert Kirkman develops a story. This even translates over to The Walking Dead, another series he created, especially in the earlier couple seasons when they literally took the storylines from the comic book and just translated them before they started really deviating from the source material a lot. And he does it in 2 different ways. So there's always a silence before the storm, before a big event happens, and then a resolution episode after this big series shattering event happens, which is ultimately going to happen in episode 7. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but there is a lot of course collision that is going to happen. Characters are going to have to reassess things, and it kind of helps shape the events of Invincible moving forward after this upcoming episode. If you watched the first one and you fell off, you're definitely going to want to watch episode 7. It is going to hit home. It's going to hit home hard. It is going to be graphic. So if you're a normie and you're coming into this series, I could see where this person who reviewed this episode is a little like taken off because they had a little romp in college. I enjoyed this episode a lot too. I think, in all honesty, the highest that they've ever given any Invincible episode at the moment right now is an 8, where a lot of them are 10s because it's just hard. I get that some people want to compare it to the Justice League. I get where some reviewers want to compare it to the MCU. It is its own thing. It tongue-in-cheek mocks both respectively, but as the series progresses in the comic books, starts to carve out its own path with how Mark interacts with his friends, the people who he loves, and his family members who support him with being invincible respectively. So it's a little harsh, and you can tell by that a lot of people feel the same way that I do, just based on the comments. Not gonna lie, you shouldn't be Disney Plus. And then very sarcastically, yes, because I go to IGN for my reviews. Wow, a 6. IGN wild for that. It was an awesome episode. You know? Another person, ASCP Yames, Invincible is better than Falcon and Winter Soldier. Just somebody's opinion that I so happen to agree with. You know? And I wish that it was only with Invincible, but they carry it over into the world of anime as well. In less than a week's time, we're getting the Demon Slayer movie, The Mugen Train. And they put out a 7. They went, it's okay. Jaw-dropping visuals alone make the Demon Slayer movie well worth a watch. even if the film stumbles a bit in the climax. So, needless to say, as a fan, please do not read this review. The guy goes heavily, deeply into spoiler territory. He criticizes the villain. He criticizes how the movie feels rushed at the end, but it's going to feel rushed because you have time in a regular anime series. You have 24, 25 episodes a season to really develop a storyline, characters, whether they're villains, their motivations, if they're heroes and villains alike. This is 90 minutes of action-packed, high-octane action. And the important thing about it is that it's a continuation. It's canon for this movie series. Unlike other anime movies of the past, where it was either Dragon Ball Z or you had your Gundam movies sometimes, or even Evangelion for that matter, those movies did not carry on the storyline that was told in the anime series, respectively. They most of the time have their own storylines. They have some of the integral characters of the show and introduce villains that are just exclusive to the movies. Now, that's not to be said that if a character in those movies is liked enough that they might bring them over and reintroduce them in a different way, in a different shape and form in the anime series. They've done this with Dragon Ball Z. There have been a couple characters that have been extremely popular in the movies, and they've made their debuts in Dragon Ball Super and other Dragon Ball series, respectively. So this kind of breaks the norm for animes in that way, where a lot of the times where if you had a My Hero movie like Two Heroes, none of it really carries over. And they spend a lot of time, I mean, even with My Hero, they created a whole mini episode where they chopped up bits and pieces to justify why, as a My Hero fan, this is a must-watch movie, even if the story doesn't carry over. So fans of the series will no doubt enjoy the film as a solid continuation of the show's main story, and no doubt it'll be a major moment that shapes the next step in the heroes' lives. So it's kind of like a bittersweet, backhanded review, because this movie came out 6 or 8 months ago in the fall of Japan of 2020, and it set box office records. I mean, if it's such an okay movie, why did people go out in droves to see it? IGN Japan covered it. Crazy as it is told, IGN Japan has its own take, its own beliefs, and its own writing, and I highly recommend for anime that you go to IGN Japan and kind of skip IGN North America, or for that matter, because they even have an IGN Europe too. Why? So these articles are great. They're poignant and they carry impact. The Japanese movie industry with Japanese animation shows the true potential under a pandemic. This is a movie that people came out during a pandemic to see in Japan, and its domestic gross was 10 billion with a B yen, which translates to roughly $91 million in change here domestically in the United States. But this was a movie that solely showed in Japan, and it's now one of the highest, fastest grossing movies in Japanese history. They broke the mold in Japan. They made a movie while we were all concerned about, the beer bug and an election. They decided to take it, put it out here, not wait to simulcast it with an American audience, and it did incredibly well. And so this was a Japanese movie made for Japanese fans for a Japanese audience, and it paid the dividends. And so I think that's great. It shows that they can make their own products and not have to bend the knee to the American market and stay true to themselves, true to their fans in their own country, respectively. And that's where there's the disconnect in my mind. You only gave it a 7 based on all that cultural significance and impact that this movie had. People wanted to just escape their world for 90 minutes and be entertained. And it so happens it's one of the most popular series in Japan right now going. It has its own Happy Meals. I mean, the context of the series is incredibly graphic. It follows the story of a kid who comes back home to witness his entire family was wiped out by demons, and his sister is the sole survivor. And it so happens that his sister now has become a demon. And what is he going to do? What challenges is he going to meet? Who is he going to have to confront to ultimately get this infection out of his sister? Because he can't cope with the idea of his sister being a demon. Really heavy, deep source material, but yet they have it as a Happy Meal in Japan. So just in context, IGN North America gave this movie a 7. They also gave Hobbs and Shaw a 7. So that's just kind of where I want to leave you. Always check who is writing the reviews. Seems like IGN is incredibly trying to give low reviews right now to things that people enjoy and are watching and caring about. And it seems like they're just kind of going for pop shock value to try to just shake the cage to get attention in any way, shape, or form. And I think it's a very big disservice to fans that enjoy anime. It's a disservice to comic book fans because, you know, as myself personally speaking, I was ecstatic that Invincible became a series in any way, shape, or form. You know, there was a point in the 90s growing up as a kid where superhero movies were very few, far in between. And I was in the camp that I was just happy that they got made. I was just happy to see that Spawn was on the screen. I was just happy to see that there was a Mask film. And it so happens that Jim Carrey did a great job and it was a fun, kind of weird romp. So checklist met, criteria met, because at the same time, we could get Batman Forever. We could get Mr. Freeze and Batman, and that was very much in the vein of the Batman animated series. And then, you know, it had its doldrum for a minute, and then we got the Christopher Nolan series. So just be happy that these things are going to get made. If you're going to review them, take the time to judge them on their merits. Where did they come from? What are they inspired by? Do they stay true to the source material that they're trying to present? Do the characters sound like how the characters would sound in the comic book? Or all those criteria in parallel to each other? Then it's a sound show. That's what makes a 7 in my mind. The 10 is when the visuals exceed the visuals in the comic book. And it's something that you could never even imagine that they were able to pull off, because even with transitional panels, there's the action in between, there's the blocks, the movement, the stuff that you don't see on the actual drawn page. So I have to appreciate when they're able to translate that and keep the tempo of the action going forward. So yes, we have not heard anything about an Invincible season 2. And if this is the only season of Invincible that we get, I'll appreciate the fact that I got 7 episodes that were 40 minutes long that told the narrative of the first 6 or 7 graphic novels, so you could get a little bit of an appetizer, a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of a taste, and they kind of updated characters to bring them into the current modern light of society today. So I'm sorry, IGN, you're kind of losing your way. I used to go to you as an authority. You know, you had your Max Schofields that really appreciate pop and geek culture, but now it just seems like these people are literally like in a writer's bullpen and they're given an assignment. And so if they don't like it, then they just mudsling at it left and right. And they don't appreciate the cultural context of where these properties and these ideas come from. So in closing, I want to know, do you feel the same way? Has IGN lost a step? Do you actually look at other international IGNs when it comes to cultural source material? If something comes from Europe, are you looking at IGN Europe? If something comes from Japan, are you looking at IGN Japan? Or did you even know that those existed? So let's keep the comments going in the discussion below. As always, thanks for watching these videos. If you're a pop culture fan, if you're a geek like myself, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. This is a little labor of love, but I just want to have my voice heard, because it seems like in this day and age, there are too many people sitting on their hands or staying silent when other people are speaking on their behalf. So as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.